having a complacent spirit, a spirit that says, man, I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to get more education. I don't need to invest into myself. It's just going to leave you stuck. It's going to have people passing you up. Like a complacent spirit loves mediocrity. It loves average. But I just want to encourage you, man, you can't stay complacent. If you want everything that God has for you, if you want the leveled up life, you got to grow. And whatever you do, you got to do it with excellence. And I just think, man, a complacent spirit only wants to be excellent when they know other people are watching. Like when you know someone else is looking, when you know the boss is looking, when you know the pastor's looking,
Yep.
when you know the wife's looking, that's when you're willing to be excellent. But you can't be complacent. You got to say, man, no, excellence is who I am. This is part of my DNA. Man, we got to get better at this. We got to look around and go, man, is there any area of my life where I'm complacent? An area of your life could be good. Like you could be crushing it for years. Like your business could be great and it's like paying the bills, it's thriving, it's taking care of your family. But like, when's the last time you invested into that thing? Because you can get complacent at the top as well.
That's right.
Just like you're at the bottom.
Failure is only failure if you don't keep going. Failure gives you the opportunity to begin again more intelligently because now you've had an experience. It's not, I failed. It's no, great. What did I learn from this? And I can tell you some of my greatest breakthroughs that led to new levels in my business were a direct result of a failure. I mean, if that failure didn't happen, the success another level never would have happened. And success is built upon failure. It's just a perspective to say, okay, when that happened, I'm not a failure because I failed here. What did I learn? What did that teach me? What's in that? What can I take from it and use along the way? And so I think it's such an important concept.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of A Leveled Up Life. As always, Branamier McCourtney here with Paul McClain, doing our absolute best to help you, to bring you revelation, impartation, motivation, inspiration.
That was good.
That was great.
There's a lot of shins on that.
We're getting better at this,
man.
about that. We're getting better at this podcasting thing.
Yeah.
Dude. 16 episodes in. Man, we're here to help you level up your life in all the areas that matter most: faith, family, fitness, finance, and your franchise. Today, man, we're going to cover all of those things. We're going to cover a topic that if you can steer clear from these things, man, your life will level up in all these different areas. So as always, like, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend. If this podcast has brought you value in any area of your life, please do us a favor. It helps us out so much. Get this to someone who needs it, man. Don't be a gatekeeper. Don't be keeping all the good stuff for yourself.
Let blessing blockers.
Yeah, don't bless someone else's blocking. Let someone else know about this podcast, man. The weather's good. Kids are out of school. It's a good time to be alive, man. It's a good day to have a good day. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, dude.
Yeah,
doing great, man. And I think this topic it's like you said, Brandon, it's like so applicable to every area. And I think that's I think a lot of times our heart desires is to pick a topic that you could say, all right, family, kind of rough right now. How do I level it up? Yeah, finances, man, I like it to look a little better so summer can, be a little bit better. I could do some things and create some experiences, whatever that is, but we want to find a topic that you're like, all right, got it. I can put this into practice and I can see my life level up. And I think this topic that we're going to cover today is going to specifically do that for you. And I would just reiterate what you said, Brand. Like, so everybody wants to make a difference by nature, right? Like, I think that one of the things that we're all created to do is to go out there and value other people, to serve people, to love people, just to enhance somebody's life. And we all have different ways to do that. Our testimonies do that. Our trials do that. Our gift sets do that. And sometimes a simple share, I know for me, that you've shared stuff with me, I've shared stuff with you, like, hey, check this out, check that out. And all of a sudden I leave better because of it. And I'm thankful for the person that was able to say, hey, take a look. And so be that person today, hit that share button and be the person that says, hey, take a look. But let's jump into it, bro.
That's good. Here we go. 8 things holding you back from being excellent. You ready?
Let's do it.
So the reason I wanted to do this topic was because I was cutting my boy's hair a couple weeks ago, and this is a whole big deal in my house because, me, I just buzz my hair every Saturday night. No big deal. I've been a barber for my whole life, right? It's just like, it's nothing to it. But my boys, they have this super long, curly, blonde hair, has some texture to it. It's not normal, right? So there's this big debate in my house if I can cut my boys' hair. And I was like, listen, Mar, I'm going to have to take out a second mortgage on our house just to keep going to the barbershop for these boys. So your boy's gonna have to start cutting hair. So finally, I convinced her, let me do it. And Mariah, she's like a hawk, you know. So as soon as I turn those clippers on, she's like making sure I'm not messing up the boys' hair. And one day, my little one, Brave, he's like, Dad, I want your haircut. So I was like, Son, let's do it. And so Mariah was nowhere to be found. I started buzzing his head like mine. And Mariah walks in and she almost cut me with my tools, with my scissors that were sitting right there. And she said these words to me. She said, "If you're gonna cut it like that, you better cut it right." And I tell you, that was the haircut that I paid the most attention to. I took my time. I was slow. I don't want to mess it up. Not because I didn't want my son to look bad, but because I didn't want to die at the hands of
Right.
a wife,
Yeah.
for messing up my son's hair. But when she said, like, if you're gonna cut it, you better cut it right, it just had me thinking, like, every area of my life, if we're gonna do something, man, let's
Yeah.
do it right. Like, if we're gonna build a ministry, build it right. If you're gonna have a family, a business, whatever it is, like, do it right, do it with excellence. But then I started to think, you would think that would be the default for everyone. Like, man, if I'm just gonna do something, if I'm gonna start a business, of course I'm gonna do it right. If I'm gonna get married, of course I'm gonna be the best husband. Or if I'm gonna whatever it is, of course. But the truth is that's not our default.
That's right.
The truth is most of us do things halfway, mediocre, average. Most of us over time may start out doing something right or all the way or with great intention, but after doing it for a period of time, we fall back to what really is our default, which is just average,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we came up with these 8 things holding us back from being excellent. Because I don't know about you, but man, I want to have a spirit of excellence in everything I do.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect. It doesn't mean that I'm going to get it right all the time, but the spirit in which I do it with is going to be excellent.
Yeah.
There's one scripture, and then I'll pass it to you. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10, Solomon says, whatever your hand finds to do it with all of your might. I just think it's so applicable to every area of our life. And really, if you could just take this one thing, it's going to set you apart and above most other people because I run a service business. And one of the biggest things in my industry is just like no one answers the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you try to get a hold of a landscaper or a cleaner or whatever it is. It's like ask your friends. They're like, no one answers the phone. No one calls back. Like just be someone that answers the phone. It's
Yeah.
going to set you apart. So talk about what's the first thing holding people back from uh, just living with
Excellence.
excellence. Yeah.
Well, dude, I think for one, as you're saying, as you're talking, Brand, I'm thinking like, man, people are a lot more, they're more close to than you think to that next level, and this is the separator.
Yeah.
Like answering a phone call, like doing these little bit extra, separates you. It's kind of like going that extra mile. Like, how can I go a little further? Because once you get above and beyond all that, it's not as crowded as you think at the
Right.
top. It's really not, and it's a lot of times just a simple thing that really is a thing that reflects excellence that's going to get you there, and I think in that scripture, and I might be wrong, but I know there's a scripture that says, like, because you don't know, later down the line if this or that will succeed,
Mm,
something. And I don't know if it's tied to that scripture, but that's the reality. Like, if we stop judging, a lot of times our intention is this worth my time?
it's good.
Is it worth my time? Well, if you're going to do it and it's something that you got to get done, it's worth your time.
That's
Get
right.
it done. Get it done with excellence. And I think an entitled spirit, that's the first thing we're gonna cover. That is such a killer of really anything that's going to unlock the level that's above you. Because when you're entitled, you're saying, well, I just think that I deserve to get this. And what it's saying is, I'm not willing to pay the price, but could I please have the payoff? And that's one of those things that just damages your ability to do the thing that's before you with excellence at a high enough regard where you're actually going to step into another level. And so, entitled spirit, I think that's one of those things where it might not be in one area, but it could show up in another
Yep.
area.
That's
And
good.
you've got to be on close alert, kind of looking and saying, all right, is there any kind of entitlement that I've got about my thought process, about the way I feel right now? And the moment you do, you gotta kill that thing, because it'll spread like a cancer and it'll overtake you. And all of a sudden, now you're like, man, I just feel like I deserve for my wife to treat me right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she should anyways, but with that spirit, are you ever gonna say, what can I do today that's gonna help bring that relationship to another level? If it's just like, man, my kid should just automatically respect me, maybe you're right. But with that kind of entitlement, you're not going to say, what can I do today to teach and
That's so
raise my
good.
kids in the way they should go?
That's
If it's
good.
about your business, it's like, no, my business just should grow because I work real hard. man, I put in some hours, man. Like I've done some things. I've worked harder than that guy. Look, that guy's further than I am. I deserve it. Well, now you're not going to do what you're supposed to do with excellence. And I don't think God ever blesses an entitled spirit.
That's good.
He blesses a spirit that says, God, I'm going to do everything with my entire heart as if I'm working unto you,
Yeah.
not as if I'm working to the boss or this. But I think of entitlement spirit as like, we got to remove the conditions and circumstances that says, if this is, then I will.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
really good.
entitlement rests in the conditions, right, Brand? Like, like once I get a better, I remember my wife isn't handling this. Like, hey, once I get a new car, I'll take care of it better.
Of
It's like that's
course.
not the way it
Of
works.
course.
That's you know why? Because the cars change, but you still show up, right?
Yep.
And then maybe for a minute it's like a little cleaner, and then guess what? Because it was bred out of a condition. Once this happens, once I get a new boss,
Then
then
I'll work hard. Then
then
I'll
I'll do
show
it.
up.
Once
Yeah.
I get a little money, then I'll tithe. Once I get a little money, then I'll give. Once I get a little money, then I'll invest. No, you gotta do whatever you're doing with excellence without any entitlement. Saying, man, I don't deserve anything. My whole thought is a reminder that what I deserve is death.
Mm.
Because we're sinners, like we all fall short. I mess up all the time. I have a thought process or a thought that's just like, why did I think that? There's always something. So my thing is like, I don't deserve anything really. What I need to go out there to do is build my deserve more so that way I get more. My deserve more is going to be built and established and grown in a spirit of I get to do this, not what do I get for free because I just am entitled to it. So that's kind of my thought on it.
It's so good. I think it's just going back to this realization that, man, when every single morning, no matter what area or arena of life I'm stepping into, man, I don't deserve any of this.
Right.
I got to earn this. Just because I built a business and sold it doesn't mean that I'm entitled to the next one, right? Or
That's
just
right.
because I have this house or this amount of money doesn't mean I'm entitled to the next one. It's like everything I do from this moment, from this day forward, man, I got to earn. An entitled spirit, by the way, is always threatened by excellence.
Yeah.
So when you see other people who are doing things excellent, if you have an entitled spirit, man, you're threatened by them
Mm-hmm.
because you know internally you're not doing the things that they're doing, but you just have this feeling of you should get it. And so there's this sense of like almost like jealousy that comes along
Yeah.
with it. It's like, man, if someone else in the office is getting promotions and doors are opening up and they're finding favor and you have an entitled spirit, you know it.
Yeah. That's good.
And so if that's you right now, and man, you're looking around your office going, what about, you're standing by the water cooler going, look at Becky over there. She's always, well, she's probably doing things with excellence,
Yeah.
and you're entitled. Or maybe it's the other way around. Whatever it is, just don't have an entitled spirit. It may be the thing holding you back from stepping into the place that God has for you. The second thing, number two, the second thing holding you back, maybe from stepping into the place where you're supposed to be, is a complacent spirit, an unwillingness to grow, an unwillingness to change. You're just good with average. You're good with mediocre. You're good with staying in the same spot. One of the things that I talk to a lot of like couples who are getting ready to get married, and I tell them, listen, like everything's exciting right now. Like the wedding date's coming up. You guys are fired up. You guys got all these goals and dreams and aspirations. But let me tell you, it's not always gonna like feel exciting in your marriage, right?
Right.
Like you guys are wanting to accomplish a lot of things in this first year of marriage. You want to buy a house, you want to have a kid. I said what most couples end up doing, and this could be applicable to any area of your life, is they end up living the same year 30 years in a row. So they never end up growing. They never mature. Their communication doesn't evolve. Like they just do that one year over and over and over and over again, thinking they got 30 years of experience, but really they just got 1 year and they did it 30 times. Now that could be in your job, right? You got the guy that's like, I've been here for 30 years. It's like, well, dude, you haven't grown or matured or learned a new skill or a new task in 30 years. So you really got 1 year. And I think just having a complacent spirit, a spirit that says, man, I don't need to know anything else. I don't need to get more education. I don't need to invest into myself. It's just gonna leave you stuck. It's gonna have people passing you up. Like a complacent spirit loves mediocrity. It loves average. Um, but I just want to encourage you, man. You can't stay complacent. If you want everything that God has for you, if you want the leveled up life, you got to grow. And whatever you do, you got to do it with excellence. And I just think, man, a complacent spirit only wants to be excellent when they know other people are watching. Like when you know someone else is looking, when you know the boss is looking, when you know the pastor's looking,
Yep.
when you know the wife's looking, that's when you're willing to be excellent. But you can't be complacent. Like you gotta say, man, no, no, excellence is who I am. This is part of my DNA. And I just think that, man, we got to get better at this. We got to look around and go, man, is there any area of my life where I'm complacent? And by the way, an area of your life could be good. Like you could be crushing it for years. Like your business could be great, and it's like paying the bills, it's thriving, it's taking care of your family. But like, when's the last time you invested into that thing? Because you can get complacent at the top as well,
That's right.
just like you're at the bottom. So, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, dude, I was actually looking up the
Complacent spirit.
definition of complacent
Let's
because
get
like
it.
it's such a good definition. It's complacent is someone that's very pleased with themselves or feels that they do not need to do anything about a situation, even though the situation may be uncertain or dangerous. Dangerous. It says marked by self-satisfaction, especially when accompanied by unawareness or actual dangers. It's like this smugness. And I was trying to actually find what Dave Anderson says about it, but I couldn't find it because he has such a great like viewpoint and perspective on it. It's just one of those things that it's kind of like the tipping point, the thing that you fall into that's getting ready to send you in this downward spiral to your demise.
Mm,
So it's like everything's going good, but the moment and it's sneaky, man.
yeah.
It's like this smug satisfaction and just like I'm okay, it's all good. And the moment you do that, like you've kind of taken the foot off the gas.
Yeah.
It's like that's the moment where it's like, okay, now compromise will set in.
Yep.
And when compromise sets in, it's a slow thing. I remember in insurance seeing this all the time. Somebody would go out and they would have their biggest month. They go out and help 20 families. They'd bring in like 20, $30,000 in income, and it's like, oh, it's all great. I've arrived. And now before they would make those extra dials at the office until 8:30 at night,
Yep.
or they would go to the last appointment and they'd door knock. But now I wrote 20,000, man. Like, you
Yep.
know about
You get
me? I'm on my
complacent.
way to $250,000, dog. Like, and all of a sudden now they're not doing it. And then guess what happens? Well, then they have
That's good.
a chargeback or something that was going to happen anyways, just in normal business practices. Now it's exasperated. Now it's bigger because they also don't have more coming in the door because they let their foot off the desk. And so now it's like this spiral that's like, whoa, how did I go from everything so good to over here, like where it's like, dude, it seems like it's all falling apart.
Yeah.
Well, it was that complacency. And man, complacency is what steals fulfillment.
Mm,
Like I'm a big believer that the way that you can build fulfillment is giving and growing. If I can give, if I can value, if I
that's
can
good.
give back to you, if I'm personally growing, if I'm personally developing, if I'm asking every day, what did I learn, what did I love, those kind of things, well, I'm gonna have this sense of fulfillment because that's what I'm designed to do. But if I'm complacent, then I'm like, I'm good. I'm not really thinking about you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good. And then I'm not really developing because heck, I've kind of already arrived. I'm complacent. So now both of those things start to fall short, and you could be living the life that you prayed for and living miserably because complacency snuck in and it stole your joy.
That's good. Really good.
You know?
I mean, being complacent will steal the joy out of your marriage. It will steal the joy out of your business. It will steal the peace out of your life because you're just complacent. You're just stuck, which leads into number four, which is selfishness. Being selfish. I think, man, we live in a world now where if you had to describe the world in one word, it might just be this one: selfish. Like everyone is just, what's in it for me? What do I get out of this, man? Like,
Oh, shoot.
malfunction.
Yep,
We'll be
we're
all
good.
right.
We're
We'll be
good.
all right. If you're watching on YouTube, Paul's mic just fell, but it's all good. We're gonna keep moving forward because that's what we do. We don't let anything hold us back. We're not selfish around here. Um, but number four, the thing holding you back from being excellent might just be selfishness. See, when you're excellent, you're always thinking about other people. You're always thinking about how can I provide value? How can I give back? How can I take care of them? How can I bless them? But when you're selfish, you're always thinking about, man, what's in it for me? How can I take? How can I grow? How could I get something for me in mind? And I just want to encourage you, man, if you're looking to level up, if you're looking to be excellent, if you're looking to expand, you got to start thinking about other people. And the truth about selfishness is you may not even know you're being selfish. So you got to take an audit of your life. Like, hey, am I being selfish not with my words? Like when's the last time I give a compliment to someone? When's the last time I've encouraged someone? I told this story before, Paul. I don't know if it was in a podcast or I was preaching it or something, but I was I was driving and this older lady, she rolled down her window and man, this lady had to be in her 80s. And she goes, "Hey there, good looking. Do you know where Stater Brothers is at?" And we were driving at a red light. And I go, "Yeah, it's right up here on the left." And she just said, "Man, my, you are so good looking. Thank you
Let's
so
go.
much." And I rolled my window back up, and I felt real good about myself. And I was thinking to myself, man, that lady's world, it has to be big because she's not selfish with her words. Like she didn't have to compliment me. She's 85 years old, right? But
Hmm.
she just that little like my, hey, they're good looking. Do you know? It's like, man, the world of the generous gets bigger and bigger, but the world of the selfish gets smaller and smaller. And so when you're always thinking about you and what's in it for you, man, you're gonna have a small world. But when you live a generous life, generous with your words, generous with your compliments, generous with your resources, generous with your time, generous with your thoughts. Like I'm thinking about others before me. That's gonna put you in the realm of excellence. That's gonna put you above and beyond everyone else who's trying to compete in your space.
Yeah,
Don't be selfish.
that's good, man.
Yeah.
One thing that I give you guys that is pretty practical with the kids, right? Because like this is such an important thing with as you're raising kids because it's easy for them to, and kids just by nature
Yeah.
like mine, like
Their
that's
first
my toy,
words.
that's
Yeah,
my
yeah,
toy, that's my toy. I was laughing. I was doing at the message of the church a couple weeks ago, and I said that that was like the kid's first words, and Psalm took it to the next level.
yeah.
Like he looked at my wife the other day, and his mom, and he's like mine. I'm like took ownership of my
Dude,
wife. I was like I had to negotiate. Well, she's after 10 o'clock, she's mine.
that's right.
But it's just the way they are. And so when it comes to being selfish, like one of the things that I just was thinking of as you were talking, Brand, that I've really gotten away from that we made a priority in our house was we'd always say like, all right, guys, today our objective is to compliment 3 people. We
Mm,
would go to the grocery store, we'd find ways, and the kids would be uncomfortable because they're not used to that,
right.
right? They're not used to saying, hey, thank you so much. By the way, I like your dress, or you have nice eyes, or whatever. But that was something that was a big focus, and I remember now as you're saying that, like thinking about how you just see them fulfilled, like they just start
Yep.
like feeling good, and so there's different things, and the way, like you said, Brent, to counteract that is like, man, what can you do to give? And that kind of takes you and breaks the chain of greed and selfishness. Every time you're generous, it breaks the greed or the chains that are tied to greed and selfishness. So that's a big deal. So next one is visionless spirit. We didn't hit that one yet, right?
Oh, we did. That was number three. That
Did
was
we?
number three. I think that was when your mic fell.
Okay, yeah. All
That
right,
was when
got
your
it,
mic
got it.
fell.
All right, let's go to 5. Laziness. All right, so
Or I don't know if we did or not. Did we skip that one?
I don't
Let's
know.
do it anyway. I don't think we did visionless
I don't
spirit.
think so. I think
All
I
right,
don't
let's
think so.
number four is a visionless spirit. Whatever. You're taking notes. You're dialed
Yeah,
in. Don't judge us. We're trying to help you.
we're just as dysfunctional as
That's
anybody
right.
else. Yeah,
Yeah, this doesn't
yeah.
show our
Paul and
humanity.
Mike's and stuff.
A visionless spirit could be the thing that's keeping you from excellence. And what a visionless spirit is when you can't see where things are going beyond your current circumstance, so therefore you don't put in the effort necessary to take it to the next level, right? You're like, well, even if I go all the way and give all my effort, no one's going to notice or nothing's going to happen anyway, so I'm just going to do it halfway. I'm just going to do it average. I'm just going to barely get it done. It's because you have no vision beyond your current circumstance. Let me just encourage you,
Mhm.
man. An excellent
It's
spirit
good.
says, I can see beyond the current circumstance. I can see beyond the problem. I can see beyond the giant that I'm facing. Therefore, I'm going to give everything and all of my effort to the situation. Even if I don't see results right away, I'm still going to give 100% of my effort because, man, I got vision beyond my current struggle. I got
Mm.
vision beyond my current circumstance. So don't be a person that has a visionless spirit. No, no, no. Get some vision. And vision is, by the
It's
way,
good.
is seeing beyond your current circumstances. It's closing your eyes and seeing what's ahead. That's vision. Sight is what you can see right in front of you. Vision is what you can see with your eyes closed. So, man, you got to be a person that has vision. Maybe right now, like your marriage is hurting, or your business, or your finances, or whatever it is. If you can't see beyond the problem, beyond the pain, then you're highly likely to not give all your effort. You're highly likely not to go above and beyond what's required. That's called a visionless spirit. But man, when you got some vision, you're like, I can see way beyond this, even if everyone around you can't. So if you want to be a person of excellence, man, you gotta have vision
That's
beyond
so
the
good, dude.
circumstance.
I mean, I think that's something that anybody could do right now because I think that everybody's got a gap, right?
Yeah.
Most people, regardless of where you're at, You're like, man, I just desire to be further. I desire to grow, develop. And I feel like that's our audience. I think that if you're tuning into this, that's because that
Yeah.
fits your mold, or else you'd be watching a different podcast. You'd be watching how to, I don't know, make slime or something. But
I don't know if that's our audience, but I get what you're saying.
no, but yeah,
Yeah,
that if
yeah,
you
yeah.
weren't, that's what you'd be doing. But
Gotcha.
you're on here because you want to, you're like, I got gaps, I want to get better, and I think that that's where vision, it takes you out of like the pain or disappointment or the discouragement of today that can keep you trapped and really giving it your all because you're so focused on, man, I'm not where I want to be.
Yeah.
But if you close your eyes and you start telling yourself a different narrative and saying, man, I get to create my future. So if I can close my eyes and see how I can, take this and work it out for good, if I can really visualize my next best step and the feeling I'm going to have when I make that step, right? And it could be just the next baby step. But I think vision, it gets us from this place of like really thinking that what I'm doing doesn't matter all that much.
Yeah.
And it gets us to shift and say, no, what I'm doing, if I do it with excellence, it's going to matter a whole lot as the days start to compound. And so when you have that picture of what you hope for so clear in your mind, you're more likely to take the step and take it with the right energy,
That's
the
good.
right passion, the right excitement, the right enthusiasm. And that's a part of being excellent because I'm taking the step, man, but I'm so discouraged already because I'm like, man, how did I get here? I'm already in my 30s and I thought I'd be way further financially. I thought I'd be way further in business. I didn't think I'd look like this. How did I start looking like this? And you start to become so discouraged. Well, you might be taking the step trying to get out of that, but you're taking it with a feeling that's really going to hold you back and hold you bound to your past because it's brought from the past. It's the shame and discouragement. But if you can get a clear vision of the future and be like, man, no, I'm gonna look like this. I'm gonna be my situation to be like this, and you start to visualize that and create new emotions. Those emotions are gonna lead to your motion and what you do today. And so
That's
I think
good.
that the vision, man, it's such a great thing because everybody on here has that.
Yeah.
They all have that superpower that you can create your future by what you see in your mind today. And so it's a powerful one, man. So
That's good. Really good. Number five, laziness. Being lazy might just keep people back from excellence. Man, this one this is tough because we've all like been there. We've all been like, man, I don't really feel like doing this. I don't really feel like, you know, going above and beyond. I don't really feel like getting up. I don't really feel like, when that alarm clock's going off in the morning, that laziness, is that laziness bug is screaming loud, like just stay in bed.
yeah,
And we can get caught up in that so easily, and the next thing you know, like you're late for work and the weeds are overgrown and the car is dirty and I get it's just like this spirit of laziness can just overtake
yeah,
every area of your life. And then it's like what you're just saying, you look at your life and you go, how did I get this way? Well, it's you caught a spirit of laziness. And the thing about laziness is it feels good in the moment, but it feels terrible
that's right.
later on. Like in the moment, you're like, "Whoo, yeah, this feels good to sit on the couch. This
Uh-huh.
feels good not doing the thing I know I should be doing." But man, I got this spirit of like, I just want to Netflix and chill right now, as
Hmm.
opposed to going and studying or do whatever it is. And you just got this laziness spirit. I was telling my boys the other day, um, every Monday night in my house is trash night, and we moved into the new house, and so there's the people before us had 5 trash cans. We typically had 3, but they got 5, and so I'm like, boys, this is great. Like God is good. Like I can take 2, all the boys can take 3. It all worked out. So every Monday night we take the trash down to the curb, and a couple weeks ago they did it before me, because I had told them go take the trash down, and I went out there and their 3 trash cans were, one was way out in the street, one had the lid off, trash was blowing, one was like knocked over. It was just a mess. And so when I took my 2 down there, I lined them up and I went inside. I got the boys. Say, hey, did you guys take the trash out? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you did? They're like, yeah. So I was like, come with me. So I walked them down and I said, do you guys see anything wrong with how you put the trash out? They're like, no. I'm like, if you were to see something wrong with how you put the trash out, what would it be? And they're like, well, the lid's open. This one's too far out. This one has trash blowing over. I'm like, you guys didn't see that the first time? They're like, yeah. I was like, why didn't you fix it? They're like, we don't know. And I was like, I can tell you why you didn't fix it. You're being lazy.
Yeah.
That's it. You're in a rush to go do something that you deem more desirable, but in doing that, it only costs you more time. It only costs you now to get disciplined, that if you would have just did the right thing the first time, you wouldn't have got in trouble. But you had a spirit of
Hmm.
laziness that kept you from being excellent. And it's not about the trash cans. They're like, Dad, why do you care so much about the trash cans? Like, I don't care about the trash cans.
Yeah.
The trash man could have fixed these in the morning. It's not that big of a deal. I could have fixed them and not said anything. But I'm trying to instill in you not to be lazy. Because if you're lazy with the little things, guess what, son? You'll be lazy with the big
That's
things,
right.
right? It's so easy to do. So I'm just trying to instill in them this mindset of like, hey, if you're gonna do something, do something, do it
Through the
right
excellence.
and
Yeah.
do it with excellence.
Well, I mean, I think the scripture that always kind of scared me, dude, was like when that scripture about like a little folding of the hands, a
Mm,
little bit more sleep, a little bit more
yeah, the
slumber,
sluggard,
and then the
Proverbs.
thief will just kind of sneak in,
Yep.
and it's like, man, that happens. So that's always been something that keeps me like moving. Is like, man, success is rented, and the rent
Mm-hmm.
is due
Every day.
every day.
That's
And
good.
so it's like, all of a sudden, I think like, oh man, I'm good because I paid the rent yesterday. It doesn't work that way. The way life is what have you done for me lately? You can't be like, babe, I know like I haven't really taken you out for a date and really had. I've only said 3 words to you this past week, but remember like 3 months ago we had that week where I took you to that trip and like
Yeah.
she's like. Fool, that was 3 months ago. Like, what have you done for me lately? That's a
Yep.
relationship. It's got to be serviced daily, and I think that's an important thing. I love what you said, Bran, about like it feels good in the moment, but in the end, you're like. So
Regret.
a great question that I try to ask myself when I get caught in a feeling, and I remember waking up and like going through the season where I'd hit snooze, and I just felt like that it was driving me nuts because it's like you're starting your day off in the wrong way, like already kind of dropping your self-esteem. Like, dude, I hit snooze, man.
Yeah.
I didn't have that's something to really look forward to, and it was a season where I was just like, man, I got to get my mind right here. And the question was like, okay, I hit snooze right now. It feels good, but how am I gonna feel in 2 hours? And so, like, before you make that choice, that's maybe the lazy choice, just ask yourself, how am I going to feel in 3 hours or 2 hours?
That's good.
And then let that be what directs you. So, like, man, I don't feel like going to the gym. Okay, fair. How are you going to feel in 3 hours if you don't go to the gym?
That's
How are
good.
you going to feel in 3 hours if you do go to the gym? Man, I want to eat that cheesecake, man. It just looks good. Okay, fair. How are you going to feel in 2 hours? Yeah, now it's all of a sudden your perspective shifts. Like, well, heck, man, in 2 hours, I'm gonna be like, dude, that 2 minutes of enjoyment wasn't worth the
Yeah.
3,000 calories. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm trying to get right here.
Yep.
And same thing with the purchase, right? How are you gonna feel in 3 days, in 5 months about that purchase? Well, let that be what leads and guides and directs you. And so I think that's an important question to ask yourself is like, how am I gonna feel? And then another thing that I would always do that was kind of like a trigger is because now your mind, right? You're like, okay, I got perspective, but I gotta still take action.
Yeah.
I got perspective. Like if I hit snooze, I'm not gonna feel good, but I gotta take action. And what really, and it sounds funny, man, but and I can't remember where I read this, but I read it in a book. You just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and you do it. So it's like a countdown, right? So it's not like a 1, 2, 3. It's like the countdown to the launch. And man, I'm telling you, it works. So like you're like, all right, man, I know in 2 hours I'm gonna feel bad if I hit snooze, but you're just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you just go. And it's crazy how it works, but it'll shift you to actually go from perspective to action. So I think that's something that you guys can help really mitigate that feeling of laziness, right? And so I love that one.
That's good. I like it. That's a tip right there. That's good. I'm gonna try it.
Practical.
I'm
Let's
gonna
do
try
it.
it. Number six. Number six. Here we go. Fear of failure. Fear of failure. I think many people have this fear, right? And this fear is keeping them back from living the excellent life that they're called to live. And I think really it's because it's not really a fear of failure. It's a fear of what people might think about them.
Yeah.
It's a fear of how will I look if I step out and I sink? How will I look if I try this thing and it doesn't work out? And it's because, to be honest, and this might hurt your feelings, but most of us care way too much about what other people think about us.
Yeah.
Like we have such a high value on what other people think about you. And I just want to encourage you, you gotta let that go. You gotta get over that. You gotta get over how you look in the public's eye. And there's really only a couple people opinion that you should value, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you're married, man, you should value your spouse and her opinion or his opinion. You should value your kid's opinion. You should value like your close friends and family that like are there for you no matter like those are the people that opinions you should value. You shouldn't value like what social media is going to think or what they're going to say or like those people, right? What are those people going to think about you? Like you got to forget those people.
Yeah.
And I think if you just could focus in and you can take whatever venture or idea or thing you're trying to accomplish and go, hey guys, and get with the people that are closest to you and go, hey, what do you guys think about this idea? What would it look like if I failed? What would you guys think about me? They're all gonna go, we wouldn't think about you any different.
Right.
If anything, we're gonna be proud of you. We're gonna be encouraged by you. We're gonna be there to support you. And so I think, man, we just got to get over this fear of failure that's holding us back from stepping into the thing that we feel like we're called to do. And it's just really the fear of man as opposed to the fear of God.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, man, if I don't do this, forget what people think. What is God gonna think?
Mm-hmm.
Because He put this thought, this idea, this 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 thing on my heart to go after. And if I don't do it, I'm more scared of like
Yeah.
judgment day when He goes, I called you to I called you to step into that ministry. Why didn't you do it? I called you to move to that city. Why didn't you do it? And you're like, well, I was real scared of what my neighbors were gonna think. It's like, what? We care.
Wicked and lazy servant.
That's good. That's good. So fear of failure might just be holding people back, really, which is really the fear of man.
Well, man, I want to try to communicate this the way it's on my mind.
Yeah.
So I think that fear of failure is also closely tied to ego,
Mm.
like being egotistical, because you're fearful of a future you that doesn't succeed and what that future you is going to make you feel like. So it's a you that's not even experienced or happened yet, but how do I feel, which is an ego thing. It's about me, right? And so and it's easy to do that. I think that a lot of people think that it's success over here and failure over here, right? Like it's success or it's failure, and it's really not. Like it's failure, success. Like you got to walk through failure to get to success. There's nobody that says I got successful because I avoided failure. No, they say I got successful because I experienced failure and I responded and got up and learned and kept going.
So good.
And I think when you can understand that, it shifts and changes your ability to take risk. And Brand, what you said is so powerful. I almost want everybody on here to really to kind of slow down and it doesn't have to be right now, but after this podcast, just imagine yourself, because we're all gonna end up, we're all going to the same place. We're all, our life is all of us are gonna have a life that ends eventually. And when we're face to face with the maker and he says, hey, here's a movie of your life, here's a movie of what it could have been, like, and you're presented with that, just think about that, right? I like how Ed Milet says, he's like, you go to heaven and he's gonna show you, who you are and the person that you could have been. And he's like, man, I want that person to look so close that it looks like we're twins. He's like, my fear is like I wouldn't even recognize that person. Like they'd be complete strangers. We only have one life. And being fearful of like what other people are going to think and say, or how we're going to feel, or how we're going to think about ourselves if it doesn't come to fruition or it doesn't work out, man, that's a trap of the enemy. We're called to create, innovate, and build. And I would just end in this point with the one thing that I think can practically be put into your house, maybe even talk to your kids about it. There's a good book by John Maxwell called Sometimes You Win and Sometimes You Learn. They have a kids version, and the kids have all read it in the house a couple times, and basically just saying like, man, listen, like failure is only failure if you don't keep going. Failure gives you the opportunity to begin again more intelligently because now you've had an experience. And so it's not I failed. It's no, great. What did I learn from this? And I can tell you, I mean, this is a whole nother podcast. If we just did one on failure, some of my greatest breakthroughs that led to new levels in my business were a direct result of a failure. I mean, if that failure didn't happen, the success another level never would have happened. And success is built upon failure. It's just a perspective to say, okay, when that happened, I'm not a failure because I failed here. What did I learn? What did that teach me? What's in that? What can I take from it and use along the way? And so I think it's such an
It's good.
important concept.
Really good. Really good. Number seven, lack of accountability. People might not be excellent because they don't have anyone holding them accountable
Yeah.
to the things that they've set out to do. It's not that anyone else has set things out for you to do. It's like the things that you've set out to do, you don't have any accountability in your life because you don't want it. And that's just the truth. Like if you don't have people that you're accountable to, it's simply because you don't want it. Like you haven't asked for it. You haven't opened that door. And I think for me, man, having accountability in every area, and I think we should we should always have, two or three people who are like, man, we're accountable to in every area of
Yeah,
our life. Like if I'm scared of the of a man who's unaccountable.
I
Like,
agree.
what's he willing to do?
Mm-hmm.
What's he willing to compromise?
That's
Like,
true.
what's he willing to take if he's not accountable to anyone for anything, right? And so I think accountability in my life is so important because it keeps me focused. It reminds me that whatever task, whatever thing I'm going after is not just about me. It reminds me that there's so many other people who are attached to me and that I have to always do the right thing. I have to always give effort. I have to always move forward because it's not just about how I feel, that I'm accountable not only to them and just answering them, but I'm accountable for the fruits of my labor. Like,
Yeah.
I'm accountable to my family for putting food on the table.
Yeah.
Like, I'm accountable to them. And there's I just think, man, every man out there needs to have some accountability partners, right? I think one of my biggest struggles is like the gym. It's like working out, eating right. It's like, well, part of the reason why is because I don't have no accountability.
Yeah.
I've opened it and we've tried, and but like it's just one of those areas. For me, like my whole life, I played sports, and so I always worked out as a group.
Yeah.
And when you work out as a group, man, you're accountable
It's
to
interesting.
your
Yeah.
brothers, to your coaches. You show up and given, and then it's like when you get out of college, this is from my experience. It's like you look around, it's like, well, no one's telling me to go to the gym, no one's telling me to eat right, no one's telling me to work out, and then I didn't do it for so long, and it's like, well, I don't want accountability anymore.
Right.
I kind of like this, you know what I mean? And so like, but then I get the results of having no accountability in that area. It's like the same might be true for your marriage
This is
or your
good.
money or whatever it is, man. You gotta have some accountability in your life because that accountability could be the thing that pushes you in excellence. Man, what would I look like
Yeah.
if I've been working out for the last 15 years? I want to meet that
It'd
guy.
be scary, dude. You got some pretty good
I
genes.
got good genes
You
already.
got
Like,
good genes.
people already look
You
like,
do,
you've been
you,
working
yeah,
out.
you
I'm
do.
like, yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I did 7 push-ups yesterday, and it's like you got
100%.
some
You
weird
know,
genes, dude. It's definitely not fair.
I do. It's God given for sure. But it's like that's not the excellent version
Right.
of me, you know. And maybe you're a fitness trainer on here and you're like, man, God just telling me to give you some free accountability. Come my way, slide in the
Hit him
DM.
up.
Let,
Hit
let
him
me
up.
know. Let me know. What do you think about
Man,
accountability?
I think that anything that I'm accountable to, I'm more excellent at.
It's good.
Always.
Yep.
If you say, man, that area of your life reflects excellence, I can promise you that's an area of my life that I've got high accountability to.
It's good.
Um, I believe that I believe that it's easy, and I've done this in many different areas. You kind of just alluded to it, that it's easy to avoid accountability because it's really forcing our hand to do something that it's above our comfort level, right? And I believe that life begins at the end of our comfort zone. I do believe that in order to go to new levels, that requires uncomfortability, and accountability is kind of the link between those two. Typically the link between where you're at and where you want to go and that season of uncomfortability, it's going to be found with an accountability partner, because we all have this, kind of this law of consistency. We want to be consistent with how we want to see ourselves. So if I'm like, all right, dude, let's go to the gym tomorrow. Normally, there'd be reasons for me to find to not go, or I get caught up in a feeling of laziness or whatever. But now I don't want to look inconsistent with you,
Mm-hmm.
and so sometimes it's a powerful thing to create good, positive peer pressure
Yeah.
through accountability. And so I just think, man, accountability is essential. It's crucial. I think that for anybody on here that wants to go to new levels, and you're saying, man, for a long time, I know I want to do X. A long time. Like, this isn't just something that got brought up this morning. Like, it's been a long time. I would just encourage you that I believe that the thing that's needs to happen is just simply accountability. And I believe until accountability takes place, it's always going to be off in the future. Your next level is always going to be just a little further out, a little further out. And I think it's the same thing with somebody that's, they've gone through maybe a situation with their marriage, and it's like, man, it's almost is the same pattern. Like, oh, it's going good now. But you know that if you look back and fork, backcast from a decade or however long, like, there's always a part of the year, there's a part of it kind of looking good, but then it falls back and it looks the same way. And I think we can get so hyped up on, like, oh, no, 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 it's good now, it's good now, so we're good now because it's good now. opposed to no, but how do I prevent the cycle? Because there's always been a cycle. And a therapist and a counselor, and that could be with anything, man. I'm a big believer that therapy is great for anybody and everybody. That could be just with yourself, it could be marriage, it could be anything. All therapy is doing is saying, like, I'm gonna help now find a system in place to become more accountable to and find an accountability partner. And I think it's the same thing, Brian, when it comes to a coach. Like, I've spent a good amount of money, a lot over the years in coaching and getting coached because I knew that it was the best person I can invest in is myself. And so for you guys on here today, the best investment you can make is in yourself. And sometimes that's finding somebody that maybe it's just a good friend that, they could make it, help me with accountability. Maybe it's somebody like a coach that can help you, level up and keep you accountable to these things that you want to do. And I just think it's essential, man. I think it's one of the most important ways to level up is accountability.
That's good. I love it. Last but not least, number 8, low self-esteem. Having low self-esteem may just be the thing that's keeping you from living an excellent life. It's a major enemy. It's something that we've all struggled with, at some point in our life. But I would say for you, man, what do people do? It's like, man, I got super low self-esteem. I don't really believe in myself. I've failed over and over. I don't really have anything to show for my life. And you can see someone when they have low self-esteem.
Sure.
The same is true with the opposite. Someone has high self-esteem, like, like,
Yeah.
they're confident, they're standing a little bit taller, they got they want, their hand is raised,
Yeah.
they want to speak, they want to give value. Like, what's the difference between the two? And if someone's struggling with low
Yeah.
self-esteem, like, what are some practical things or ways that they could begin to build? Because it's not just like a thing that's like it switches overnight.
Sure.
Like, it's something that happens over a long period of time till they get to the point where they're a new creation almost,
Yeah.
right? So how does someone make that switch from no self-confidence, low self-esteem to walking in
It's good, man.
confidence?
Well, I think it's for one, the thing that you can control is like small little victories and wins. Like keeping the promises to yourself. I believe builds self-esteem. So if I say like I'm gonna just like wake up tomorrow at 5 o'clock or whatever, um, sometimes the waking up at 5 o'clock, yes, that brings additional benefits, but one of the biggest benefits is a self-esteem that's going to be enhanced by simply doing it. And so I think that self-esteem, for one, practically anybody on here that you could do is like today, put together the rest of your schedule, maybe tomorrow, block it out in certain increments, prioritize it, and then if you start sticking to it, like what'll happen is you start to get your self-esteem from your work habits, your action, your activity habits, not the result. See, I think a lot of times when your self-esteem's low, it's because you're chasing a result and you're not focusing on, did I do what I said I was going to do today? And so now your very self-esteem starts to just really get broken down because it's like, no, I didn't get the result and I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And so I think a good way to kind of like test how you're doing is, did I do what I was supposed to do today? Because that's going to be a reflection of what's to come tomorrow. So like, am I pacing to get to the result? And then the second thing is, am I experiencing the right results from what I had prior? Well, that's a great reflection of, did I do what I was supposed to do prior? Because I think that results are kind of 90 days, trailing what you're currently doing, whether that's fitness, faith, finances, franchise, business, all those things. Like, you can't really get so hung up on your result because the result is something that came from 90 days ago. I mean,
That's
it didn't
good.
come from today. It
Yep.
came from 90 days ago. So don't judge your result. And that kind of gives you the ability to build your self-esteem, knowing that, okay, I did what I was supposed to do today. And the second thing I'd say to that, brand, is like, I call it kind of like it's a false position. It's believing. Okay, I'll put it to you this way. It's kind of like I'm growing and developing and building my self-esteem. But every time I get around this person, that person knows me as this kind of Paul.
Mm,
Because you have multiple versions of yourself.
yeah.
Like, I see you in one way, and then somebody else might see you in one way, and your spouse sees you in one way.
Yeah.
Like, there's multiple versions of yourself. And I experienced this when I was transitioning and getting into business out of high school. Like, I started to like pursue developing and growing myself and going after just something that was at a higher level, right, than everybody that was around me. But the moment I got around certain people that knew me as that Paul, right, it was hard for me to keep myself at that same level of excellence and not drop down to
That's
kind of
good.
keep it comfortable because they knew me as that, and I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. And now my self-esteem starts to drop because it's like I was up here, but now I've dropped down to a lower level just to kind of fit in with how they know me and how they see me. And so I think that a part of creating self-esteem is how you do anything is how you do everything. Do with excellence. Don't ever drop your level. As you're growing and developing, make people uncomfortable to go after their next level. Don't try to drop your level to make them feel comfortable because they're like, "Oh, look, he's growing. He thinks he's special. She thinks she's special." No, you're special, man, and go after your next level. And I don't think you need to drop your position to match some identity that's you've already left and you're growing to a new one. So, I mean, that's kind of how I think about
That's
it.
good. I teed it up that way because I knew you'd crush that answer. I think it's just keeping the promises to yourself,
Yeah,
right? It's like if you say you're going to do it, do it.
do it.
If you don't do it, you already know what's going to happen. You're going to feel worse about
Yeah,
yourself. And so if you're going to make like I'm big on to-do lists. So every morning I'll write down like I got to call these people, I got to talk, I got to get this accomplished, I got to send this email, whatever it is. And there's many days where I don't accomplish what
sure.
I'm doing and I know the feeling that comes with that. I'm like, man, I spent too much time doing this thing. I got distracted, especially if you work from home, right? It's like I got distracted. I did this. I went
Yeah.
outside and I played with the kids at this time when I shouldn't have been doing that.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I didn't talk to this person. I got this whole unchecked, all these unchecked boxes on my to-do list, and my self-esteem is like, now I got to double it up tomorrow, and it's like this constant battle back and forth. And so my point is, like just like you said, if you're gonna say you're gonna
Yeah,
do it, and over time, what's gonna happen is you'll begin to trust yourself.
that's right.
You'll begin to say, hey, if I say I'm gonna do it, and then other people will begin to trust you because
That's
they know
good.
you're a man of your word, you're a woman of your word, and if you man, if Branamier said it, it's gonna get done. I don't know how, I don't know when,
Man, that's a
but if
good
he
thing.
said it, it's gonna get done, right? But it starts with keeping the promises to yourself, and that just expands from there. And next thing you know, people are going, man, that guy's so confident.
Yep.
That guy, man, look at that guy. He walks in the room and he just takes over. Well, it's not that. It's just they all know they can trust you because you keep your word and you get results from it. So hope this episode helped.
Man, this is worth listening to
This is
again and
good.
again. I'm gonna go back and unpack some of this stuff and audit like how well am I doing in these areas
Yeah,
because
me
I think
too.
that's kind of the thing, man. Like hey, we're all just trying to get a little bit better, and sometimes that 1% every day doesn't seem or feel like it's going the right direction, but man, over a period of time, it makes such a difference. And a way to kind of gauge is like on a 1 to 10 scale with these 8 things, where do I fall? And in which one of these areas will make the biggest difference if I get better today at it. And so, man, I appreciate you as always. I learn a ton,
Same here.
listening to you, and I value this time every single time we get a chance to get together and kind of have these discussions because, man, this is the deal. This is life. Let's go out there and make it a leveled up life by doing something different today than we did yesterday to make it a little bit better. So, guys, we love you. Appreciate you for joining. And we'll talk to you next week. God bless you.